So there are two panels about international book markets, general book market and children's book market, and our good friend and expertise in international book markets, Prasan Pathak, will moderate both of them. So please.
Thank you so much. We start with the first panel on the international book markets. May I please invite the panelists, Elena, Greta, Nita. Okay. Okay.
Thank you.
Yeah. Should we give a minute for people to settle down? Or? Yeah. 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 Let's give them the 5-10 minutes. We start at 2:10. Two. Yeah. We'll start the session in 5 minutes. So if, in case you want to go and grab a coffee or something.
I have never used a microphone before in my life. No, neither do I. So I don't know that I will. I've never used a microphone before, so I don't know that I'll do it successfully.
Just keep it close to your mouth, that's all.
We haven't met.
No, we
I'm
haven't.
Selena. From Argentina.
Yes,
Selena.
yes, very
We
nice.
sent-
Yeah, on
exchanged some
email.
emails.
Yeah, yeah. I was fascinated to hear about, I would love to visit
Oh,
Argentina
yeah,
as
you
well.
should.
I have some lovely friends from Argentina, but they live now in India and the US.
Okay.
But we've been planning for many
Oh,
years
you
to
should.
go,
There's a lot to see in
because
Argentina. A
yeah,
lot.
because you can't just go on your own. You need some
Yeah.
local friends
Oh,
to show.
you
Now
write
I
me,
have you. Yeah,
and I will give you all the
yeah,
advice.
yeah.
Yeah. I'm gonna make someone take a picture of us while we wait.
Yeah. I'm worried that people might leave. That's the only thing.
Well,
Yeah.
that's good for me because I don't like to leave.
Oh,
start the session. Thank you for being here. Let me introduce the panel first. We have Greta Milesi, Rights Executive, the Corto Group. Selena Alonso, Founder and Editorial Director, Lectura Edizione. Lecturita Edizione. And Neeta Gupta, Publishing Director, Tethys Book and Afterword. I will give a minute to all the panelists to talk about themselves, introduce themselves, and then we can jump on to the questions. And the floor is we'll ask some questions, we'll talk about what we have been discussing, and then open it to the people for more questions.
Thank you, Prashant. It's wonderful to be here in Thessaloniki. It's an absolute joy to share this opportunity with all these young fellows. And just to give us a brief introduction of what I do, I've been a publisher and I do publish still very small list of books. But my main role, I think, is providing, like facilitating translations from Indian languages to English and international languages to Indian languages. So I've been working almost 30 years in this field, working closely with translators from Indian languages and working closely with interesting grants and possibilities of translating European literature into Indian languages, not just English, but other Indian languages. So I think I just place myself at that point where I do matchmaking between books and translators, matchmaking between publishers and translators, and matchmaking between grants organizations and translators and publishers. So I try to, because it's, when you've worked in this field for about 30 years, you know how certain things work, and young people who entering the field may not know these are the possibilities that they can access. So now I'm more associated with a university, and I work closely with translators. So this is my field, and I'm here to understand what are the books that I can take back from Greece or from other European countries, meeting all the fellows, and take it back to India. And maybe I can, talk a little bit about the Indian market after this introduction. So over to you, Selena.
Well, my name is Selena Alonso. I'm from Argentina. My publishing house name is Lecturita Ediciones. It's a young independent publishing house. We first create a book club in Argentina that it's very successful all across Argentina. We send a lot of books to our subscribers, and at the beginning we started buying books from another publishers, but the volume was becoming so big at a moment, so we decided to make our own publishing house with the idea or the premise that the books that we send to our subscribers were as good as or better than what we were buying at the moment. And that's the way the publishing house was created. Now we keep a lot of subscribers, and we send our books and also other publishing houses' books. We do buy some rights to only for printums that goes through the book club, and in our publishing house we try to keep global books like authors. And so that's a brief introduction about what we do. And well,
Thank you very much. I'm Greta Milesi. I'm originally Italian, but I do live and work in London for the Quarto Group. We are a publisher of illustrated books for children, families, and adults. But I personally take care of our adult illustrated nonfiction titles. I sell the rights of our titles to Greece, to Turkey, and to Middle Eastern markets. But I also look after our backlist and our reprints for our co-edition English language books. So yeah, that's me.
Thank you for the introduction. So we learned a few things here. about the international market. One is we talked about the exchange of cultural information through books by translating them into various languages, which Nita has been championing from last 30 years. We talked about the subscription model, which is very interesting, and we should dive deep a little bit when we talk more about it. And the adult illustrated market, which is also very fascinating because we mostly, when we think about illustrated books, we just think about children, and the adult illustrated market is something which is very fascinating, and love to know more that how it is growing. I'll start with Nita. Nita, so many years, so many things you have done, and you have looked the Indian market really very, very closely. So can you explain a bit about Indian market to the audience? And I would also like to point out, if you can point out, what are the few misunderstandings people have about the Indian market?
Thanks, Prashant. You know, I think when I speak about Indian market, my favorite, point I like to bring across is the absolutely mind-boggling numbers, the potential. When you look at India or when you look at the numbers, the population, the languages spoken, it is just incredible. If I just give you 3, 4 facts about India, it's, of course, we all know we have the population is only second to China right now and may overtake China in a bit. But at the same time, we have a really, we have such a diversity of mother tongues. We have 19,500 mother tongues. So you start with 19,000 mother tongues, coming down to about 122 language groups. We're talking about 22 official languages. We're talking about, incredible kind of, 14 scripts which are part of the Unicode font system. So, we have languages without scripts. We have languages, oral traditions. We have, so you can imagine this, this market is a very difficult market to understand because at the same time, we have very young people. We have more than 50% of our population is under 30 years. Average age of Indian is about 29.5. So more than 50% of India is under 30. So you're looking at a potential almost 600 million people who are potential buyers. Of course, it does not translate immediately into sales, but that is the potential. With an education, literacy of about 75%, 74%, it's it's almost the size of the whole European market. Just our under 30 population. If you look at them from the education reading perspective, you look at them from trade reading, you look at them for children's books, you look at them from graphic novels. It is an incredible, incredible market, which is why India is quite insular as well. I think, when we look at the difference between India and others, we're not really looking for an external market because our market is in our country. We are writing books for ourselves. We are translating books for ourselves. We are reading our own books because we have these multiple languages which are then cross-translating into each other. So it is a mind-boggling number and mind-boggling, also when you look at, the audio and the e-book markets, you're looking at a country with 1.15 billion mobile connections, 1.15 billion mobile phone connections, out of which 650 million are smartphones. So you're looking at people who are constantly on their phone, they're reading on their phone, they're watching on their phone, they're watching, there are officially, I think around, Amazon Prime did a survey of, officially it's about 20 million subscribers, paid subscribers, but actually each subscription is being used by at least 10 people. So you're looking at, just 20 million paid, but you're looking at multiplied by 10 for the actual users. You're looking at 12 million Netflix subscribers, but you're actually looking at, each of those is multiplied by 10. So it is mind-boggling in terms of numbers. if somebody can play that, I mean, there is one person who was very smart in India, who has been grabbed and stolen from India, very dynamic publisher who had a very good understanding. And so, you know, we we are all still trying to figure it out. It's not, India is not for beginners. It's not an easy market to understand, but it is there. The potential is there, and I think we are all still grappling with understanding, because it's young. It's just, I'm too old to cater or to service the industry, which is just 15-year-old people. So, you know, it is, we need young people to come and join and tell us and take it forward. So just leaving this, you know, this incredible diversity of languages, the incredible reach of technical, I mean, of the tech, of the OTT platforms. We're looking at listening. You know, the new kind of reading is listening, is watching. So you know, a book is not just the printed word in India. It is many things, because it is an oral tradition. People love audiobooks. So if you look at the audiobook market growing in the Indian languages, it's third after the US and China. India is the third largest market. So if you're looking at content, if you're looking at podcasts, there is a lot of hunger, a lot of thirst, and I think we are trying ours. I mean, I'm working for 30 years. I'm trying to figure out still, how can I create those numbers? Because at the end of the day, numbers count. So over to, yeah.
Just to add few things about India, it's a market that has been growing, and I was last 10 years I have looked at it very closely, and if anybody is interested in the market, it's a market where you actually can sell sitting from anywhere in the world. So the digital platforms are so strong, and if you can work around your strategy right, you can actually cater to a lot of people. I think the way market has developed in last 6 7 years, because of the economy growing, a lot of disposable income went in the hands of young parents. And young parents in India understand the importance of leisure reading for their children. I mean, I remember me growing up, my parents said, It's enough that you have enough books from the school to read. I mean, just focus on that. Why do you need to buy a book with stories and pictures in it?" But now it's changing in India, so the market is growing in that sense. Books are getting gifted a lot, so that trend is changing. And the last numbers I was aware of, if it was a $9 billion publishing market, and only 4.5%, 5% was leisure reading that was trade. So it was very small. But the beauty about these numbers is, if that 5% goes to 5.5, we are talking about millions of books getting sold because of the sheer size of the population we have. So I'll move on to Selena next. And Selena, you talked about the subscription model, which is very interesting. But how do you, how can you differentiate between your market, the entire Latin American market, and the European market? And is that something, the subscription model is for the entire Latin American market, or is it something which is a trend, or people like to do that, or is it something which is very unique to you?
Well, our subscription, Lecturita, is only for in Argentina right now. We send packages like all over Argentina. We There is an idea of going to different countries in Latin America, because of course it's all Spanish native speakers. But well, it's a lot of work doing it in each country, and that is well organized, because it's not, the subscription is functioned like this. We parents or brothers, uncles, like, they subscribe the kid, and they put in our system their ages and their interests, and maybe also they can put the books that they have already bought from another publisher. So then we have this system, and there are professionals speaking books, and we send to 6,000 kids books all over Argentina, a package with 2 books, and every month. So monthly they receive this package that is in a beautiful wrap, and with some extra surprises, because the idea is to make an experience, and they experience enthusiasm when the package arrive and they open the package and they see what it is inside, and every month they have 2 new books to read. So when we started before pandemia, the club was very successful, but after pandemia it was much more, because a lot of people were in their houses, and so the number of the club increased a lot, and that at that moment, and that's when we decided to go printing. But yeah, the idea is it would be simple to go in Latin America, or even though we have a partner in the States, because there is a big number of Spanish speakers that we haven't launched it yet. Oh, we are launching it, but well, it's not already completely done. Um, and what we try to do is to simplify in a way, because there are a lot of mothers or parents that they don't know which book to buy, and sometimes they don't have time to go to the library, or it's for that audience that is not so specialized into books. So the idea is to solve that mother's problems, that they don't know what to buy, or maybe they go to the bookshop, not the library, I'm sorry, bookshop, and nobody tells them what to buy. So, but they want their son or their daughter to read. So the idea is to also simplify and make the moment that the package arrive a happy experience. But we are also very, very careful about the books that we send in the package, because if the subscriber doesn't like it, doesn't like it, it's gonna unsubscribe. So we already know what are the things that most of the people don't like to receive. Or no, it's a surprise. Like the books we send, they are a surprise, and when they subscribe, they put their interest, and they put the age, and also the books that they already have, so we don't repeat them. And then all that is in a system, and the system, and we have professionals that, and we make this like curated books that are in the book club, but we change them all the time, and we send ours and also another publishing house.
This entire digital system is developed by you, or is it something which you're using it from outside?
No, we have done our own. Yes, it was
It's
a
your
very
own
expensive thing to do, but now it works really well. But we have do our own. It took a lot of time with people that program and everything, because it was very specific, and we have a statistic about everything because there are subscribers that maybe they are in the book club for like 3 months or 4 months or 5, then they unsubscribe because they want to buy their own books. That's what we want. Like they start enjoying reading, so maybe they after they go and they look for what they want, not for what we are sending them. But sometimes they come back. So our system has all that information, and we have this like account for every reader that was in our book club. So we don't repeat books. We know their interest. We know, and that works fine.
It's beautiful. It's a beautiful sales model. I mean, when we talk about sales, we always say that a great sale is something which you can do it again and again with the same customer, and it's a beautiful model. The recurring sale can give you a future idea about how to move forward, and you're keeping the sharks like Amazon at bay, so that's also beautiful. I'll move to Greta, and Greta, tell me something about the titles which are traveling to other parts of the world from your list, and so adult illustrated titles you mentioned, and apart from that, what else is selling across the globe?
So, at Quarto, what we specialize in is well made books that readers can turn to time and time again, specifically to learn a new hobby, to look at something new in the world, and to gift to other people. So, for example, in our history, we are 50 years old. One of our absolutely best selling titles on our adult list is a knitting stitch directory. which is not, at first glance, a particularly exciting title, maybe. But it does so well because we have an amazing editorial team, amazing authors, and we create books that readers can rely on. So books like that, they travel across the US, the UK, they travel internationally, and they work really well. We are known for our needlecraft, we are known for our art instruction titles, and we're known for our art books. So those are the ones that do the best.
And are these selling regularly? Did you see any shift in terms of people using online free resources instead of buying these books, or have you seen a trend of these selling more in spite of being this information available online?
So what we do is we're very careful, first of all, to make sure that we refresh the look of the book, because our books are obviously physical products. They are illustrated titles. We don't really do ebooks. We do have the rights, but they don't do particularly well. And when we refresh the book, that kind of gives it a new life. We make sure that the cover has a new finish. We make sure that it looks very modern, and that it keeps going. I'm talking titles that have been reprinting year after year for over 20 years, across markets, from smaller markets to bigger markets. Obviously, very different print quantities. I take care of reprints both in Italy and in the US, and the quantities are very different. But yeah, no, they do keep well across the board. We also invest in doing what we do very well, which is art instruction, but making it a little bit trendy. And that is also what keeps us going. We have a brilliant series called the How to Draw Cute series that has sold into now 23 languages. And we're talking over 1,800,000 copies, with countries like Italy, like Spain, France, Germany, reprinting every single year, sometimes twice in 1 year.
That's an interesting take. When we say something is selling really well, don't change it. And there's another take on that, that if something is selling, you might have to refresh the look of that over a period of time. So that's pretty interesting. Neither, coming back to you, and you have been translating a lot of titles so many years. Tell me something about how do you balance the regional storytelling with the global outlook, and how do you select the global titles to bring back to the Indian market, and what sort of stories, uh, titles, the topics you look for?
So, my focus has been actually in the last decade. It's been about finding the stories written in Indian languages and taking them to the world. And in this process, what I have found, and in fact, what's been very helpful has been the international awards, which have been now giving translations and a level playing field. So awards like the Booker International, or in India we have the JCB Prize, which give equal weightage, and translations are not judged separately. So whether a book is written in whichever language, as long as there's an English language translation, it's given the same kind of level to compete. And this has really, I think, given us just getting into long lists, getting into short lists, winning some prizes, has really given a sort of a new hope to editors working in big publishing companies in India. They are now looking for books written in Indian languages. So that has been a very heartening experience. I mean, if we still have, the Booker Prize shortlist, we have a wonderful book by an Indian writer, which was not even a book in India. It came in her mother tongue. It was a book written in Kannada, short stories, in fact, written in Kannada, which is a language spoken in Bangalore and the area around that city. So these stories were translated from different magazines and brought out in a collection. And this collection in English has been shortlisted for the Booker International, which is very heartening for stories being told in the heartland, because a lot of these languages, Kannada has a script, but there are languages around, dialects around this language, which don't even have a script. So, taking? Yeah, yeah. Sorry. So, working with these stories, which, you know, working with authors who are writing new, because, in India we have a very big market for English writing as well. It's I think the second or third largest English language market in the world. And, when you're looking at that kind of, of course, the last 75 years of after independence, about the narrative has been controlled to a lot of extent by the English language writers in India. But in the last 1 or 2 decades, we are trying to find the voices in the hinterland, in the internal, in the languages, Indian languages, to find those stories which we do not know, which the world does not know, which are surprising in their intelligence and their native traditional knowledges. And we're trying to bring those stories. So when you talk about what am I looking for, I'm looking for something that nobody knows about. And there are some traditions, there are some things which are suddenly making sense now when we're looking at sustainability, when we're looking at climate change. We're looking and we can actually find some really simple ways of changing your life to, in a fiction story, to become more sustainable, to just to step back, not go for fast fashion, not go for, and just that it may just change your perception in a short story, that, that life and love and happiness can be found without consumption, or without, or the market, or so these are what we are looking for, and this is what we are taking to the world. What we're taking from the world and bringing to India is, of course, driven by the award system, I would say quite honestly, because that ensures a certain market. So, just to be very pragmatic, books which are awarded or are in short lists or long lists tend to get more often translated in Indian languages.
And it has a market as well, a ready market, because people are already aware. Right. Selena, coming to you, let's talk about do you export your titles to other countries? I mean, I know you mentioned that you are creating a market, a little bit of market in US, but are you exporting your titles to other countries or not at the moment?
We did not that much. We did once to the States, but not that much. We do sell support our culture in a way, because we do sell rights, and the books from the publishing house have we have like around the catalog. In the catalog, I have 60 titles, and there are around, like, I don't know, 25 titles that have been translated to between 10 and 15 languages, what I think it's really good for the catalog, but we don't export that much. Like, it's difficult in Argentina for a small independent publishing house, because for different reasons, but one of them, it could be the government changes, because each time government change, not every time, but normally the exportation laws can change. So you have to be very updated, and for that you need a bigger structure. And well, that's one of the reasons. Then, like, distance, geographical location is another that make everything more expensive, and sometimes then less competitive, because the price increase. So no, my business is not going that way. It's more into Argentina or replying the club in somewhere else.
And you're importing titles from other publishers from the globe, or no, you're developing everything on your own?
Not importing. I do buy rights for print terms specifically for the book club, and I do buy from publishing houses in Argentina that they import.
All right.
So, but I don't do the importation.
So tell us, when you're buying rights, what sort of titles you're looking. I mean, I know you cater to a range of ages.
Ye-
So, and in particular, which particular age group sell a lot, and what exactly you're looking at?
Well, like if in the book club, the major amount of subscribers are young, very young. I would say from 0 to 3 years. So board books are something that um, is very important in our catalog. And we try to look for board books, but not just a simple one. We would like also to have an extra idea that the mother is going to also find it attractive, not something super simple. And then we do picture books, a lot of picture books. Um, there is a specific subjects that we know we can't send in a package because it's a surprise package. And for example, book about death, about sexuality, about those books is good that they exist and they are in the bookshops, but as a surprise package, I can't send it because each family has to decide when is it going to talk about each thing, you know? So if they receive a book about death, they're going to unsubscribe and they're going to complain and they're going to let me know and they're going to leave all their feedback through the social media,
It
you
will
know?
be very weird opening the package at death.
And there's, yeah, so that's, I have already learned that lesson. Um, but, well, I try to look for books that maybe they settle a good idea, that awake curiosity, that I don't know, different ways to see the world, diversity. It's the experience. It has to be a happy moment. So not nostalgic books, not sad things, not because that's the idea of the experience. Yeah.
Fantastic. Now you know what she's looking for, so bring your books to her. Greta, tell us about how do you approach when you are doing rights negotiation in different markets, say how it is different in Europe, Asia, and US, and what are the challenges you come across with?
As a little bit of context, Quarto started as a co-edition publisher to make sure that publishers around the world and English language ones could have well-made illustrated books at a reasonable price, because they're quite expensive to make. So our foreign rights team, it's 35 of us selling into over 50 languages. So we have quite an extensive team. And what we do is we specialize in markets. So we try to make sure that we know our markets as well as possible. We try to make sure we have a very international team and we pair people with the countries that they're from as much as possible, or countries that they have a connection to, or that they particularly like for whatever reason. With this, the ways that negotiation then goes is that obviously we try to cater to those markets as much as possible. In obviously the first instance, if I'm talking to an Italian publisher, I will negotiate in Italian, and that is the basic way that it's different. But in more detail, because we work with co-editions, bigger markets are going to be able to have bigger print runs. The smaller markets might have to translate at a specific time and then print at a later date once a bigger co-edition is confirmed. Sometimes because of currency differences, we cannot work in co-edition. So whenever we can, because we do want our books to travel and we do want to make sure that our authors are well represented worldwide, we work as a license deal. In some territories, for example, in Japan, we work with a lot of agents. In others, we work mostly directly with publishers. So it really depends, and we do work with a lot of languages. What we try and do is we try and make sure, and I think that's one of our key strengths, that we really know the markets that we work with. Obviously, fellowships help with that. And it's just a great way to make sure that we are presenting the right books to the right home in the right countries. But I'd say those are the biggest problems. Organizing print runs is a bit of a challenge. When you have such a big team, you have to make sure everyone is coordinated. But we're quite organized, and we talk a lot on Teams. So we do that a lot.
Fantastic. So the key thing is to knowing your market. So of course you have to know your market to sell into your market, and then you have to understand the other market really well to sell in that market.
I completely forgot, but we also, we can modify the book a little for the markets, which also kind of helps because, for example, some of our editorial teams are in the US. I'm not sure how many people have traveled there, but everything in the US tends to be slightly bigger. Their bookshelves are bigger, their books are bigger, there's a lot of white space, and those don't travel as well in other territories. And they want smaller books, so we can make smaller titles for them. In Japan, a lot of books, especially illustrated, are published as paperbacks with jackets, so we can keep doing that in co-edition. We can change so many things of the titles and still make sure that publishers get a good price and good quality books, which I think is key and why we keep doing well.
So flexibility is the key. If you have to sell in the international market, you have to be flexible in terms of the market you're selling in. Nita, coming back to you, and this time we talk the literary translations and the role of those literary translations in strengthening India's position in the global market. Can you give us, can you talk about this and also give us some examples if you have about these books?
So I think this which I was mentioning earlier as well. When the Booker International went to a book by the Ret Samadhi by Gitanjali Shri, which was translated by an American translator actually. So when this happened, it really changed a lot of. It really changed. You could sense it, editors in publishing houses. Suddenly, I started getting many calls. Do you know any books which are getting translated? Can you tell us what is fresh from Kannada or from Kodava or from Marathi or from, do you know? Because obviously since I work closely with translate, they knew that I have an ear to the ground when it comes to translation. So I was maybe just one of the people. I'm sure across the country people were reaching out. And I think the changes it brought was suddenly there was this awareness that we need to be paying for really good translations. Because before this, I think there was a little lackadaisical attitude towards the quality of translations. I think suddenly the penny dropped and people understood that if you invest in a really good translation, you can have these crossover hits or crossover successes in the international market, and it can really change the way people look at literature from your country. So overnight, I saw translation rates were changing, buying rights for translations. The amount of money people were willing to pay to buy rights from different languages, that was changing. So I think the whole system became a little more international, a little more professional, a little more respect for translations, a little, that whole thing changed, which I think was very important for our market because we were taking it very easy. And I think there was a lot of fly-by-night kind of operators who would just take grants and just slapdash do some really bad work, put it out in the market, poor quality translations, and then they realize you can't waste your time doing that. So I think the awards, the biggest gift they've given us is our own literature in better translation so that everybody across the country can read it, not just the people in those languages. I think that opening up of the market has been a very big, it's a gift, I think, for people like us who work in that space.
Tough space to work in because there's hardly any commercial value you bring out of it. And with your statement, I would like to make a comment that anybody who's thinking about just translating books from AI and just trying to sell it in the international market, it's a good example that if it's not translated really well, you would not have really great international market. So, and Ret Samadhi is a great example of that end up winning Bookers. So, so that's phenomenal, and I think AI is something which we'll have to discuss, which we'll discuss in next 2 days. And Selina, let's talk about some examples from your market, a local story which has done really well, and something which has been phenomenal in your business, which has sold across the country and some reviews which has come from it, and what positive aspect you have learned from them?
Well, we have several stories that I work really well in Argentina and also were sold and translated to many countries. Like, for example, there is this book that the name is How to Reach the Moon. And it's a really nice story about a boy and his grandpa. And that story, uh, well, we sold it to many. It was translated to many. It's written by an Argentinian author, and it's translated to many countries. But besides that, we also the government in Argentina bought 160,000 copies, like to give for free in all schools. Um, so that story that we publish not only like it also won a lot of different awards, and it won one of the awards that is the one that I like the most, because it's an award that Alija EVA Argentina is the EVA Association in Argentina. They send the books to all the schools, and the children pick their favorite. There is not a jury. The children are the one who chose it, and this book also won that award.
Oh, amazing.
And well, then the government distributed for free in a lot of schools, and it was translated, I think, to 12 languages. So that was a book that we trust, and we were confident that it was going to go. And well, it was for us in our publishing house, that is a small publishing house with 5 years of or 6 years of experience. It was a big success.
It's a great story. A small publishing house, 5-6 years of experience selling books like 160,000 copies. It's
Yeah, that was the
it's
only
great.
one time that we have that, but hopefully,
I hope it gets repeated again.
yes.
Greta, you mentioned that you have a huge team, 35 people in the rights market, and so from where you're sitting and with so many people around, and of course you would have some intelligent system to predict few things. What can you suggest us that for the next few years, how do you see this market, especially from your point of view of what you're doing?
I really wish that I had a crystal ball and that I could tell you right now what the next massive thing in illustrated titles would be. I do not have that yet. Give me a couple more years, I might create one. But I think overall we're lucky because readers keep wanting physical copies of our books, and that's great. We've seen different trends come and go. But the macro topics tend to stay the same. And there might be slight dips in demand, but then they do tend to come back again, like if you like Taylor Swift, like a 90s trend. But so things like, again, like art instruction, it might have a slight different twist. We went kawaii, we went cute, we went cozy. So it might have a slight different angle every time, but it's people like to draw, and people like to buy books that teaches them how to draw. So that keeps going. And I think as long as we keep having brilliant editorial teams that know how to pick up on these things and know how to react promptly to anything that they see, then we keep doing well. But that is why it's key to invest in new product and to have those brilliant editorial teams that give us the books that we can then bring to other markets.
Invest in new products, but I'll also add to that backlist is not your enemy. So once in a while, go pick up your backlist, have a look and see if you can repurpose it, if you can use it again, relaunch it. Sometimes we tend to forget that we have done something in the past, and that might not have been successful because the market was not ready or might not be right. So once in a while, go back, have a look at that. And with that thought, I'll open it to the audience if you have any questions to the panel.
do for the book club, do you also prepare some kind of like materials for parents or whatever adults who works with kids at home, and how to read, and what are maybe the topics for discussions with children? Is there anything around the books you send as a surprise?
Yes, not about specifically of the book we are sending, because all the packages are different. We don't sell the same book to all the subscribers in a specific month. Every package is different because the system gives us the information. But in each package, besides the books, there are some surprise gifts for the kids that is nothing, not super expensive, because we try to be competitive with the book price from the bookshop. And that's for the kids, maybe some, I don't know, origamis or things that are intelligent to play with, or just not something simple, that simple. And for the parents, we send always a letter with some advice related to kids and literature, but in a different way, or how it's good to prepare your bookshelf, or how do you take care of books, or why it's better that you read a book and not be with the screen, like different type of subjects that might interest parents, and they are also want to make them keep reading with their children. Yeah.
Any more questions?
Hello, everybody, and thank you for your very interesting talks. It's a question for Mrs. Gupta. So in India, if there are any grant programs for translations, do they take into account the dialects? I mean, Banu Mushtaq's book would be any way to subsidize the language?
So,
The translations, no, I'm sorry.
so in India, on paper, we have some grants programs, which on paper. So there is the national, it's called the Sahitya Academy, which is the Literature Academy of India, which has a lot of grant for translating within Indian languages, for translating from Indian languages to English, for translating from Indian languages to international, the UN languages like French, and so there are grants available for these, and you can submit applications, but they never get approved. So we really rely on private funding for translation. Institutions, like I am now associated with a university which has created a translation department where we access funding for translation. So we access funding from CSR companies, from other international donor organizations from all over the place. We try to create a fund so that translators can be paid well, because in India they don't get paid well. They get paid very poorly, I have to say. But that's changing now, because people are understanding that quality really gives your book that extra mile to go to international awards, be included in these international awards. So like Bani Mushtaq's book is again, an example.
Yeah, my more technical side of the question is, would these grants need the translation to be from the original dialect? So, I don't know, Banu Mushtaq's dialect to Greek, which I think is difficult, or it could be through English, through the English translation?
No, so they do allow through English.
Okay,
Yeah,
okay.
everybody now, English is used as a rich language.
Well, is there any more question? And if not, then I'll ask Selina one question. Have you ever thought of licensing your software to other publisher? So
Yes, we have but we are a small company, and so everything is more work, But yes, we have, because this program is everything. Making a book club, it seems easy, but it's actually not,
It's not.
because then you have like it's good for selling, but then there's a lot of things going on with logistics, questions of the subscribers all the time, to having all the information. So yes, we have thought about it. We never done it. We only have a partner in the States. That our partner actually is the one who created the system. So he wanted to do it in the States, but we both of us own the system, but not anywhere else. And we do get proposals from different parts of mainly Latin America. But the thing is that normally people doesn't realize that the system is one of the most important thing, because of course you need to know about books and you have to make a really good, you need the good professionals picking them, but if you don't have something there, you can scale the subscription.
You can't scale
Yes.
the business and
Yeah.
subscription. Thank you so much, Greta, Selena, Nita, for this wonderful session. And thank you so much for the audience for being here. A big round of applause for the ladies here. We'll take a 5 minutes break and we'll move on to the next session, which is the children's book market.